This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Unfortunately, it is not a victory Monday, and we wish it was. Unfortunately, the Chiefs were able to come back from behind and beat the Titans soundly 20-17, which we will discuss that a little earlier. But unfortunately, it's just the way it goes. Sometimes we just have to work through some things, and we knew that this offense was still a work in progress in some instances, especially finding out Malik Willis was going to start at the last minute. Definitely a lot of issues to discuss throughout the night, and just giving our thoughts what we think will go forward, especially with the Denver game upcoming this Sunday. But first, we have a special guest, and let's get to him. Joining us from Titan Sized would be our good friend, Ian Schiller. Ian, welcome to the Power Hour.
Hey, Michael, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on, and I've been a big fan of the show, and happy to join another Titan Size rider.
Well, it's nice that we actually get to meet in person. I know our schedules are definitely a little hectic, so our writing is a little on and off, but definitely check out Ian's work on Titan Sized. He does a fantastic job. Always putting out good content, always putting out some good reads, so make sure you check him out for sure. So, Ian, definitely got to ask, I mean, anything in the works that you're willing to share with the audience as a sneak peek?
Yeah, I hate to admit, when I've got something scathing coming out. As much as I'd like to have given us something a little bit more joyful to talk about, I should be posting something pretty soon this week. Sort of going over the offensive struggles that we've been having, a little bit reflecting on Sunday's game. As much as we would have liked to have had a win, just couldn't quite get the offense going, and that really is what it comes down to. And so that's what's in the works, and I'm excited to get that out.
Fantastic. We'll definitely be looking forward to seeing that on Titan Sized. Make sure you check it out. It is a part of the Fan Size Network, and we're always putting out good content. Gotta love our content creators out there, always doing a good job. So before we get started with our top news, we definitely had some breaking news this afternoon where it seems the Colts, they don't want to keep Frank Wright around, and that's the case. He has been terminated as the head coach, and Jeff Saturday, of all names out there, will be the interim replacement going forward. So, Ian, I got to ask, what's going on with the Colts right now? And I know that's a loaded question.
What is going on in Indianapolis? I mean, as a Titans fan, you have to love it. It's really the Colts provide nothing but entertainment right now, and I hate to say it, but I love it. I love the hire, and not just from sort of the fact that that's coming from the struggles that the Colts have had all season, but also just because Jeff Saturday is just a charismatic guy. I can't wait to see some of those press conferences. He's been really killing it on Get Up on ESPN. He looked like he had a real nice gig going there with ESPN. Personally, I wouldn't ever take up a coaching job in the NFL over that media money, but I give him all the props in the world for taking this challenge on, because that is a depleted roster. They are, they've got no direction at quarterback. They have no offensive coordinator as it stands, in addition to him coming in as an interim head coach. Jonathan Taylor, he's got the injury bug, and that's, your best player. That's what they've designed. That's what they're trying. They're trying to build a Derrick Henry style running back centered offense. And that just goes to show how difficult that is in a league like the NFL. It's Derrick Henrys don't come around all that often, and I've never thought that Jonathan Taylor was really that guy. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but it's difficult to be taking that many touches as a running back.
Not since Norm Van Brock has there been a coach hired without any collegiate or professional experience. And this one's going to be interesting. As you said, there's still things they have to make certain and get going before their next game. They don't even know who the offensive play caller is going to be, let alone who's going to be handling the day to day stuff, which Jeff Saturday is going to have his hands full just figuring out that being the interim coach is basically the head coach job, regardless. So, what do you expect the Colts to do going forward? Do you think that it's going to be a situation where they want to try Saturday out, see if he'll fit in with what they're trying to do? Or do you think they've got a few candidates in mind going forward?
I imagine this is an interim position in the truest sense. I think a lot of Colts fans would really be dying for him to take a 10-year position and be there forever, have a lot of success. But I think he's just a placeholder. Jim Irsay obviously loves Jeff Saturday. The fans love Jeff Saturday. He really does represent a lot of what they want out of the Colts franchise. He was obviously there for their Super Bowl and played with Manning and was a part of those really great teams for Indianapolis. And that's certainly sort of part of the culture that they're trying to reinstill, because they've certainly lost, I think, a lot of that. And I mean, luckily for them, they've got the Raiders coming up next week, and they are just about, if not for the Colts, maybe the next messiest franchise right now, and maybe the next coaching fire to come out, perhaps. Who knows? So they'll see if they can bounce back there. But to me, this feels like just a placeholder situation. Stabilize the ship, sell some tickets, have Jeff Saturday come out. Let the fans enjoy whatever they can out of this season, because it's a wash.
And being a wash, already looking forward to next year. And I definitely have to ask, not wanting to give up too much positivity to the Colts, because as Titan fans, we definitely enjoy to see them suffer just a little bit. I'm not trying to schadenfreude and just enjoy in somebody's misery, but I'm enjoying a little. Just a little. But to finish it off, let's just say, what coach do you think would be a really good fit for the Indianapolis Colts going into 2023?
Well, they have to figure out the offense. And to me, I mentioned the Raiders just a minute ago. Doesn't feel to me like Josh McDaniels is going to be coming back after this season. He did interview for that position with the Colts originally before Frank Reich was hired. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe circle back to that. And as it stands right now, I mean, what they're hoping Jeff Saturday can do is just right the ship for the season. And I think really what it is a blank slate for the next coach coming in to, come in and just say, hey, we've got a lot of things in place here. You get to pick the quarterback. You can get a young quarterback in the draft. It's likely that they'll probably have a pretty high pick now. So I think it really is an open invitation to just about anybody who wants to check out the position. I know the Eagles offensive coordinator is probably going to be getting some looks this offseason, as well as a lot of these other coordinators who Todd Downing certainly not going to be getting a look. I'll tell you that right now. But a lot of these other offensive coordinators for these successful teams are going to be probably the first names on the list.
And I'd vie for Todd Downing to have that job. That's just,
that'd be great.
Indy, Todd Downing, that might be your guy. I'm just saying, he's worth a phone call.
Yeah, take a look.
Phone call's free. Go for it. Everybody's piling into the chat. We'll get to that real quick before we start our top news. Shout out to Mom, always here on the show. Love you, mean it. Always a fan favorite. I'm sorry. Lou Man joining in as well. One of our favorites on the show. Getting that second jump in. Lou Man, always good seeing you. Mom shouting out Ian for being on the show tonight.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Also, our good buddy Sin City Titan joining us. Tighten up, Titans beat the Chiefs last night. Unfortunately, we couldn't beat the refs. And I mean, Sin, that was really kind of part of it. I mean, I've always felt that with the refs, you can only control what you can control, and the referees are going to do what they need to do. Sometimes some are going to go your way, and some aren't. But I mean, granted, I know there's a few we definitely are going to talk about, but unfortunately, it's a situation where there were a few questionable calls. I would say that the NFL competition committee will probably review it, and it's probably just going to be like, yeah, well, we missed it, but that's all they're going to do. So, unfortunately, that's just how it goes with the referee situation. But I mean, there's a lot more problems than the referees. So we will get to that a little later. But first, and we got to jump into our top news. A lot of big stories to talk about. So let's not waste another minute of time and jump into it. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power, and we are getting ready to hit our top news. And to start out, the biggest news cycle going through would definitely be that the Washington Commanders, the dumpster fire that they've been for the last couple of decades, seems to finally be on the verge to be on the move. Daniel Snyder is selling the team for what it looks like. Definitely do some legal issues, which we'll get into that in a minute. But definitely not short of some people looking to buy the team, especially Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z potentially teaming up to buy this franchise. So, Ian, do you think that this would be a good fit for the Washington Commanders, owner-wise?
I think just about anyone who can get their hands on this franchise would be a better owner than Schneider would be. I mean, he's really proven that. I mean, leadership does matter. I mean, you can see that in this situation. There's got to be some sort of semblance. Clearly, the rest of the organization is just. It's only going to go as far as this owner situation until it gets resolved. It's never not going to progress past that. You're not going to be able to have any sort of stability. I mean, for Ron Rivera, I mean, I give him all the praise in the world for just handling all of that dumpster fire that's going on there. I think as far as Bezos or Jay-Z, Jay-Z seems like a weird fit for me here. It feels like he doesn't really have any connection to the city, but it would certainly give the organization a little bit of swag. I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I think a lot of fans would really enjoy that. Bezos, I think the NFL would love for Jeff Bezos to get his hands on the Washington Commanders. He could really, and we talk about NFL owners and what they do for an organization. A lot of it does have to do with cash on hand. It's something a lot of people talk about. Being able to, for example, you look at what they've done with the LA Rams, where they have basically just picked up that organization, moved them out into California, basically just on the owner's checkbook, and just bought their players as they needed, with bonus cash and all of those things. And you can build an organization that way. You can certainly get to a championship game like the Rams have done. And so I think that would be the best case scenario for both the NFL as well as the Washington Commanders to get Jeff Bezos on board there.
And I mean, it opens up a lot of doors, especially when it comes to just building a stadium, which is one of the biggest reasons I think the NFL owners was pushing to get Daniel Snyder out, not only with the legal stuff and everything else that came with Daniel Snyder. And I mean, I could do a whole show on that, but I know we've only got like so much time to go along with that. But realistically, I mean, this definitely is a solid deal if you could get Bezos and Jay-Z on board, not only potentially getting guys that have the money that are willing to spend and make the team better, but this could potentially also set up for the new stadium to be built wherever it wants, or even relocating them back to where they started as a franchise to RFK and potentially having that renovated or just potentially tore down and build a new stadium in that area. So, Ian, I mean, realistically, stadium wise, I mean, where do you think Washington would fit best?
Wow, that's always a tough question because then you get into the whole sort of the fabric of what makes a team, and you get into culture and you talk about all of those things. I think I'm always a fan of keeping like the Titans are doing, keeping the stadium relatively close to where it is. But that said, the Titans have always been a Tennessee team to the extent that they've been the Titans. And so in that way, you don't really mess up that sort of branding or culture or whatever you sort of want to call it. The Commanders, on the other hand, they've already gone through a bit of an identity crisis the last few years, and I think they could do pretty much whatever they want at this point. I think that the organization has reached that much of a low that they could stay right where they are, or they could potentially reach back into their roots, like you said. That would be, I think, a good move for them as well to touch back to those bases. But really, the sky's the limit. I would be really actually very optimistic as a Commanders fan at this point, with the fact that you've got finally Schneider sort of out on the outs.
But I will say this, and one interesting point that I've made throughout the year, especially with teams being sold and bought, I believe Denver was one of them at that time when that process was going through. That would it be a conflict of interest with Jeff Bezos owning an NFL team and also owning the rights to Thursday Night Football? Wouldn't that seem like he would kind of almost have like a good pick of the game slots of who he would like to play?
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point there. And to be honest, I think when you're the richest man in the world, I guess you can just do things like that. Whether or not that's necessarily in the best interest of the league, I don't know. Whether there's legal components there, I'm sure that they'll figure that out. But yeah, I'm actually a really big fan of the idea that's been tossed around with, I don't know if you've seen this, but Robert Griffin III is trying to get together a fan coalition, a group. We're just trying to raise some money for that. I think last time I saw his Twitter, it was up to like 400,000, which pale is a penny in the bucket compared to Jeff Bezos or Jay-Z even. But I think that sort of grassroots organizing with fans and with your own team culture, that is really what it's all about. And I would love to see that far more than I would love to see Jeff Bezos on the team. But I think you sort of have to go with what's the most obvious solution here, and I think that might be Jeff Bezos.
And I mean, a lot of questions going forward, especially with how it's going to transpire, how much of that money is Daniel Snyder actually going to get his hands on. But I mean, it's questions we'll definitely get more solid answers to, especially with the legal situation going on. But I say, especially in a sense of Washington, they're battered as a franchise. The fan base has just been dejected for the last 2 decades. So a breath of fresh air is what they need, a fresh perspective, and people that genuinely care. And I mean, I guess that's kind of a fetch word to use with Jeff Bezos in the same sentence, but I still feel more confident with him and Jay Z than I ever would with Daniel Snyder.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And Lou Man apparently is very good friends with Bezos, but apparently has never heard of Jay Z. Lou Man, I'm just saying, the man's got 99 problems. Money's not any of them. Hitting our next subject of the day is Odell Beckham Jr. And of course, already been reported that his rehab is on schedule. He looks that he could potentially be joining next week with any team of his choosing. So, Ian, what is the team that looks like that they're going to land OBJ?
That is a great question. I think Odell Beckham at this point in his career, he's looking for a combination of two things: the opportunity to win. I don't think he's necessarily, the term ring chasing gets tossed around a little bit. People have said that about Von Miller when he joined the Bills, and I mean, it is what it is. A ring is what's going to be what people are going to remember, and so I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with a player having the choice and choosing the best team he could be on. I think that makes a lot of sense as a player. Um, Odell Beckham, I think that's part of his decision-making process. He's obviously not going to be joining any team that is not going to be making the playoffs. That just wouldn't make sense for him. In addition to that, he's going to be looking for a nice little paycheck. He likes to get his value. He likes to get what he's worth, and he certainly is worth it. I think you saw that, in the playoffs when he was with the Rams. He was certainly, it felt like that extra option, that extra weapon to have that really got them over the edge. He unfortunately went out in that Super Bowl, but he got them to that point, and they did the rest. So I think, I hate to say it because they keep amassing these weapons, but I could see him on the Bills as well because you can never have too many options. It's been tossed around that he might go to the Titans. A lot of Titans fans are very hopeful for that, and Lord knows we could use him. I don't think we're going to be able to offer him the money, and I don't think we have the system in place that is really going to be able to be worth the money for the Titans. We just don't utilize our receivers well enough in this offense to justify that. But he could, and additionally for the Titans, he's just going to be too expensive, bottom line. And so I think he'll be looking elsewhere, but if I had to put my money on anything, it would be the Bills.
And the Bills would definitely be a good fit. They seem to be going all in, especially with a Super Bowl trip this year. Very much in the cards for them. But per Jay Glazer, I mean, some of the teams being kicked around, Buffalo, one of them, the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, or even a reunion of the Rams isn't off the table just yet. But realistically, out of the 4 teams there, what's the best situation for him to go into?
Well, I think the best situation for him would be the situation that has Josh Allen in it. I think a lot of receivers would count themselves very lucky to be playing with what is, in my opinion, probably the best quarterback in the league right now. Arguably, maybe Patrick Mahomes you could throw in there, but I think what the Bills have to offer, in addition to the money aspects, I think that the Bills sort of have the better situation there. I did see on Twitter today Mike McCarthy was doing some light tampering and telling OBJ just how good he is, which I know OBJ does appreciate those praises for sure. But Odell Beckham's got really the pick of the litter right now. He is what is down the road. He's the reward for having a good regular season for these teams. So there's really a lot of options. He's got all the options that he could want, and so I think it really is a bit of a beauty competition. It is a bit of a pageant for these teams right now to see who can put up the best offer for OBJ, and I think he'd be well worth it for any of those teams.
And Ian says Buffalo, but Lou Man is feeling Seattle, which I think would be an interesting dark horse team. But would they spend the money?
That is interesting. I haven't thought of that.
But if I had to pick a team out of the 4, I mean, Buffalo would definitely be my first choice. But I think for whatever reason that he'll end up going back to Los Angeles. I think he's comfortable in that system. I think he'll definitely help Matthew Stafford feel a little more comfortable getting the ball out. Unfortunately, Allen Robinson has not been the guy that they thought that they got. And with all the problems that the Rams have, they definitely need to try and coax back one of their key components that got them to the Super Bowl. So I'll go with the Rams on this one, but it's about a 65% chance. So I'm confident, but I'm not that confident. Moving on to our next piece of news. Bradley Chubb is, of course, the newest member of the Miami Dolphins, and with that, also granted a brand new extension, 5 years, $119 million extension, $63 million of that guaranteed. And of course, now news outlets across the land are screaming that Miami has made themselves into a potential contender. So, Ian, true or false? Does this move put Miami into Super Bowl contention a lot better than they were a month ago?
Compared to a month ago, I think that it does. I think it really does help them. I do think that the difficult thing for Miami, the challenge, despite them doing, sort of what I mentioned earlier about with what the Rams have done and what other teams do, and putting, sort of all their chips on the table and just surrounding their team with talent. Obviously, they've got just a fantastic offense with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Extremely potent, and it's clearly confounding defenses week in and week out. I mean, they have been able to hang in there in just about every game with their offense. And now they're adding that piece on defense. You have to really like the addition. I mean, Bradley Chubb is just fantastic. He's one of the premier pass rushers in the league. And that's really probably the third most valuable position you can have on a football field. You've got second or third, I would say. Obviously quarterback being the most important. You could argue cornerback is a very valuable position for what it can do, but having somebody who can disrupt the quarterback is almost as equally as valuable as the quarterback itself. We've seen that with the Titans and what they did this weekend. I think that this does really sort of pole vault them up into consideration. And in addition, with adding him to the 5-year contract as well, adding that 5-year contract on, with Tua still going to be on his rookie deal for next year and the year after that, it not only puts him in contention for this year, but for the next few years moving forward. I think Miami has really set themselves up well, and it's really what fans want. I mean, that's what they've asked the Titans to do by keeping AJ Brown and things like that. It's just about sort of putting your chips down on the table and saying, hey, we're going for this, and that can really rally a team, and it attracts other people, it attracts other players to come in and say, okay, they're going for it here.
And it did come at a high price. Miami ended up giving a 2023 first round pick and running back Chase Edmonds for that trade. Now, of course, some people felt that Miami overpaid, especially knowing Chubb's injury history is going to be critical, especially for his long-term success. So, do you feel that Miami got it right, or did they overpay?
It's always sort of a gamble. I mean, we're playing football. No matter who you're giving your money to, it's going to be a risk. I mean, for example, we saw what happened with Harold Landry. I mean, we paid him all that money because he was not injury prone. He played just about every single snap for the Titans, and yet we pay him, and he has a terrible injury. So it just goes to show it's a gamble, and I think for Miami to put all their chips in on Bradley Chubb is always going to be a risk. It would have been a risk if they had done that with anybody else. But at the end of the day, you have to sort of just go with the assumption that things are going to work out. A lot of things have to go right in order to win a Super Bowl anyway. I think this is the right move.
Once again, another young team taking an investment, and a risky one at that, on a player that could potentially give them a higher upside, making a deep playoff run. Will it pay off? Of course, as we say, we'll just wait and see if it pans out. Hitting our next news story, it's not so well in the land of Green Bay, as they've lost 5 in a row now. Aaron Rodgers is fed up. The receivers can't get open. Their running game has been on and off non-existent. Ian, what is wrong with the Green Bay Packers?
The Green Bay Packers are sort of they're you can almost imagine them as being a looking in the mirror. If you were the Tennessee Titans, if you were looking in the mirror, they're a completely different, what you fear your team would be. Even though they've got a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, they have no wide receivers. They have no wide receiver depth. They've got great running backs, and yet they, unlike the Titans, are unable to really get them going in any meaningful way, because a lot of it has to do with the fact that they, unlike the Titans, don't have a very good defense at all. Their defense is extremely porous. It's not able to keep them in games. They've designed their team, post Devontae Adams, in a way that's sort of supposed to drain the clock with these running backs, sort of short yardage passes, and sort of they're supposed to win the time of possession in these games, and they're just not able to do that because they don't have the deep play threat in Devontae Adams anymore. Randall Cobb is getting older. Alan Lazard is always on and off injury, it seems like. I just think that you can't really design an offense the way that they have with the defense that they have. And you can sort of see how thin the margins are in the NFL. They were a great team last year. And this year, you lose key pieces. You get a little bit older. You don't get any younger. You don't get any cheaper. These kind of things happen to a football team, and it's a slow drain, and it's not really fun to watch. And then I feel bad for all the Green Bay Packer fans who are having to watch it.
And a quick shout out to our buddy Lee from the 615 podcast tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. He'll be talking to Chase McCable from 102.5 The Game. So shout out to Lee. Make sure y'all check that out when you get the chance to. Lee always puts on a good show and podcast. But it doesn't get easier for the Packers going forward. And looking at their next 6 games, they've got the Cowboys at home. They've got the Titans at home. They're on the road at the Eagles. They're on the road at the Bears. They're home with the Rams. And they're on the road with the Dolphins. So that is a brutal, tough stretch heading into December. And realistically, they could lose just about all of those games the way they've been playing offensively. So realistically, what are the Packers going to have to do to try and get back into the contention of things?
Yeah, I do not envy that schedule at all. That's a terrifying schedule, even if you were a top half team, which they are not. Going forward, it to be honest, I'm at a loss. I'm not sure what they could do at this point. I don't think they are a destination spot for a guy like Odell Beckham. They're just not going to be winning enough games. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers can't really carry the team like he used to. I mean, I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers, even as interesting of a guy as he is. I feel bad for him in the sense that he's been asking his whole career for them to sort of build some weapons around him and support him in any way possible. And it seems like they just never listen to him, which is surprising. I think their only hope is really to lean on this running game and to really focus on some more play action passing to try to open up their passing game at all, which it has really failed to do so far this season. And take the game out of Aaron Rodgers' hand a little bit. Let him sort of let the game come to him as opposed to letting him sort of pick apart the game. But you also have to ask whether Aaron really wants to do that. He might just want to be out there calling his own plays, which he's known to do.
And I'll ask you to put your GM hat on. And we'll rewind the clock 1 year from now. And let's just say you're in the position to re-sign Aaron Rodgers or potentially trade him. So knowing what you know now, what would have been the better option long-term wise? Would it have been better to trade him, or would it have been better just to continue to sign him forward to a long-term deal?
Well, putting on my GM hat, I am going to have to say that I would definitely trade him because this last offseason was the season to do it. There was certainly offers on the table. I'm sure that if Denver could also rewind a little bit, they would probably take Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson. I would definitely have to go back and trade him and just get as much as you can out of him. You're not going to get as much as you think, I think, with the quarterback of his age, but you're certainly not going to get anything from it now. And that's always the risk you run with this sort of letting a quarterback get this old. I mean, I think Tom Brady has set sort of a bad precedent for what a quarterback can be, and we're seeing that sort of unravel a little bit this season as well. But I still think Tom Brady's probably doing a bit better than Aaron Rodgers at this point. But these quarterbacks think they can play till they're 45 now, and I mean it's a young man's game. Football is, and even in the quarterback position, as smart as you can be, at a certain point, you're just not going to have the juice anymore. And that's sort of what it feels like in Green Bay right now.
And time still remains undefeated when it comes to quarterbacks entering and leaving the league. So I'm in agreement with you. I've always felt that Green Bay should have just cashed in their chips with Aaron Rodgers. He was serviceable at the time. He had value, and there was teams willing to pay out the wazoo to get him. But unfortunately, now Green Bay has no skilled wide receivers. He has no veteran presence to actually help carry this team from the wide receiver standpoint. So Green Bay is stuck with him for better or worse. And that was a lot of money to invest for at least, 2 years? And to finish it all out, we've got a football game as usual. Monday Night Football on ESPN. Of course, we have the New Orleans Saints taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And Ian, I got to say, Ravens have been looking pretty good so far, especially with the addition of Roquan Smith. I think he's really going to help bolster that defensive line. But still, the Saints can surprise you sometimes. So we'll start with the Saints. What's going to be some of the keys to this game to get them in position to score the win?
Absolutely. I mean, for the Saints, you have to feel good about having this game at home. You know, a lot of things can happen in New Orleans. It's always nice to have these primetime games, have that sort of tiebreaker of playing at home, and you got to feel more comfortable there. They have had a really tough time sort of flipping through quarterbacks this season. I think for New Orleans to have success, they have to find it through Alvin Kamara. I mean, that's got to be your first go-to option. And I think you got to have Chris Olave going. He's been really a really great surprise. Maybe not a surprise for some people. He was very highly touted coming out of college, but he's really caught on very quickly in that offense. And he seems like a really good fit for New Orleans. Especially with Michael Thomas once again going down, it looks like for perhaps the season now. The offense has to get going through Kamara and Olave pretty quickly to get sort of. You don't want to end up in a situation where you have Andy Dalton throwing 30, 40 times. That's not going to be a recipe for success. So you have to get your weapons going early and just let them sort of dictate the game.
And of course, you've not, without any excitement from the Baltimore side of the ball, Lamar Jackson rolls in, and they roll in with a very impressive 5-3 record right now and on a 2-game win streak. So what's Baltimore going to have to do to try and slow down Alvin Kamara and the Saints?
I think a lot of what it comes down to for Baltimore and what it has been the recipe success for them for a while now, which is like you said, get that defense going, let the defense dictate your offense, and so you can get the ball to Lamar and just let him work his magic. And for Lamar, this is going to be a tougher game for him. He's not going to have that the safety net of Mark Andrews in there for him. So I think for that Ravens offense, they just need to keep things simple, get positive yardage, and not let penalties set them back. Let Lamar see the field, give him time in the pocket. I'm always surprised when I watch the Ravens how little they want to get him outside of the pocket. I think with a quarterback like Lamar, you'd want to have him rolling out into the flat and doing some quarterback boots or something like that. But you don't see that as much. He's really sitting back in that pocket a lot. I would want to get Lamar outside of the pocket, let him use his legs. I feel like that opens up everything for that offense.
And of course, to finish it all off, who do you have winning this game tonight?
I think that Lamar gets it done. I've got a lot of confidence in Lamar. I think he is also one of the top quarterbacks in our league. I think he's so different, just so dynamic. I think in a lot of these close Monday night primetime games, the deal breaker is usually the better quarterback, and so I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was close.
And I'll agree with you on that. I think it's going to be a close game. Realistically, it's a tough environment to play in New Orleans, but I'm going to have to go with the Ravens on this one as well. I think Lamar Jackson's the difference maker, and that's what the Saints need at this point, but don't have a viable quarterback at that position to help make plays. But unfortunately, It's just a situation that they're going to have to endure going throughout the season. And I mean, running into the Ravens and that potent offense, that's just too much to ask. So I will confidently say the Ravens, and shout out to Lou Man as well, going Ravens as well. So I think we're going Ravens across the board on this one. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. We'll catch our breath, and when we come back, Titans, Chiefs. Yeah, I guess we got to talk about it, but we'll try and find some light at the end of the tunnel. But we got to break down the good, bad to get to the good. So back in 30 seconds, I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. The Power Hours on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Special thanks to Ian Schiller from Titan Size joining us tonight. Ian, it is wonderful to have you on the show, and we thank you once again for taking the time to just give us your breakdown of all these stories going on today.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I definitely wanted to make sure you gave a shout out to the fans to let them know where to find your content and where you're putting it out at.
Absolutely. You can always find my stuff on Titan Sized. And if not there, you can find it on my Twitter at IanRFC7. I'll always put my articles out on Twitter whenever they're up. And I'm always talking Titans. So feel free to check my Twitter out if you want to see any of that.
He's one of the hardest working writers in the biz. Check him out. He's always got good stuff coming out on Titan Sized, as we are both contributors. But also, I am a part of the Titan Upload Network, and thank you for always watching us, and make sure that you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. Always putting out good content for you, the fans, because we love you guys. You keep coming. We keep putting out stuff because you care. Caring, sharing. Don't forget to share the show with all your friends. That's how we grow. We grow because you put it out, and we put out more content for you. It's a win-win. So just keep doing what you're doing. Well, Ian, I guess we can't waste any more time on this, so let's just take a deep breath and just refocus here. And of course, Sunday night, the Titans played the Chiefs, and of course, as you see on the screen, I got a lot of questions, so let's just start with the obvious. What went wrong?
Oh man, there is it feels like there's a ton to unpack here, but I feel like it does really come down to one thing, and that is the vanishing of the offense in the second half. And it would be one thing if we knew going in, or if we knew just generally. I mean, we do know at this point if what happens at halftime. I am just at a loss at this point. It feels like a different team comes out in the second half, because like we saw, they put up 14 points in the first half. They were able to get 3 in the second half in the third quarter, and that quickly ended the scoring there. It really does come down to me, whatever is happening in the offensive philosophy. I don't know if it's the philosophy, I don't know if it's the play calling, but it feels like the Titans really just needed one more point in this game. If you could have found it anywhere, they really needed 3. They could have used 7, and they had the opportunities to do so. They really did have chances. The turning point for me was really at the start of the fourth quarter. The Titans get the ball after some great special teams work. They get the ball at the 50-yard line. They're able to get it down to the Chiefs' 38-yard line with 2 great runs from Henry. And then, we're at the 40, we're at the 38. They run a first down run, which I really have no problem with. And then they take a shot down to, to Nick Westbrook-Akina, and that, which he really should have made a play on that ball. I mean, you really have to ask when you got to ask your receivers to help out your third round rookie making his second NFL start just to go make a play for him in that situation. But my question is, why are you putting your third round rookie quarterback in that situation? We've seen the zone read offense work early in the first half. And I wonder where that went. Where did it go? It seemed like we totally abandoned a lot of the running, the philosophy that was working in the first half. And I just don't really know what happens, what they decide to do, why they seem to get so conservative, while simultaneously making really reckless and just crazy decisions. It seems like at times with their play calling, and I know a lot of fans have already gotten on the Todd Downing hate train, and I hate to just keep piling on, but it really does sort of seem like that we've got a common thread here.
And I believe you because I'm basically running the engine of that train. So, and realistically, the proof's in the pudding right there. I see inconsistency across the board anytime that we've had an opportunity to make long drives. And it goes back to week one. I mean, they start out with scripted plays. We know that it's basically they're getting the plays out that they want to start with. And then once that's gone, Todd Downing lacks the ability to do anything creative. And it just drives me insane the fact that we've gone from what was once a potable offense 2 years ago, and now we can't even move the ball across, midfield. So realistically, and I mean, we get to the bad, we're going to hit the bad part of this first. So I think that's the easiest place to start. It's understandable that Vrabel's going to defend Downing at this point. They don't want to shake the boat. They don't want to upset anything, or I guess upset the apple cart, so to say. But realistically, the damn apple cart's busted. So, Ian, I mean, I can't sit here and not think that they went out and brought in Tim Miller to potentially be a replacement because they end up making up a job for him just to get him in here. So, is Downing on a thin line right now as we speak? I mean, what more can he do that he has already just put this offense in a bad position? I mean, what's it going to take to just move the needle of progression to potentially see if we can just try something else?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how many more games can the offense cost the team before it does sort of come down to that. Like you said, I mean, and that's the frustrating thing. I mean, for the offense, as I was mentioning, to be at the 38-yard line, you're up 17-9 at the start of the fourth quarter with a team built the way that the Titans are built. Where this is supposed to be our strong suit, to go and get those yards, whatever's in front of you, to not lose yards, to not have negative plays in which they had many. In fact, they lost 4 yards on that that sequence that I'm referring to put them outside of field goal range. In fact, and that to me is an inexcusable mistake from an offensive coordinator. You have to know this is a situation we can't lose yardage, and the idea that you would take a shot in that situation sort of goes against. It contradicts pretty much every single logical coaching philosophy or just game philosophy to stop the clock in that situation, and also put your rookie quarterback in a situation where he has to go out and make a play there, unless it's with his legs, in which case I would have been completely fine with letting Malik, try something. He showed he was elusive. He showed he was athletic last night. He also showed he could throw the ball, but he's got no one to throw to. So it really felt to me like if they had stuck with that sort of Houston Texans script they went with, and obviously the Chiefs are not the Houston Texans, but if they had stuck with that script of we're going to run the ball 3 times in a row here, and you're just going to have to stop us, I feel like we would have had a much better outcome in that game. And it doesn't feel like that hard of an equation to me, which is the frustrating thing. And like you said, it just seems like Todd Downing lacks creativity. I would be surprised if the offense didn't end up costing us this season. I think we have to look at everything in sort of a larger macro scale. We can look at the micro scale. It's always easy to come back and say, oh, we should have run this play. We should have run this play after the fact. But what it's going to come down to is it's going to cost us in the playoffs because it looks like that's where we're headed at this point, barring a collapse. But what it's going to end up doing is costing us in the playoffs in some form or fashion, and that will be the straw that breaks the camel's back for sure, which will be an unfortunate straw to be broken. But with the Vrabel situation, he does have to come out and defend Todd Downing. I have no problem with that personally. I mean, I would actually hate it worse if he was coming out and saying, "Oh, this guy sucks. What are you going to do, guys?" So I have no problem with him coming out and defending Todd Downing, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think the problem's obvious, and it probably will cost us late in the season, one way or the other.
And I talked with this with one of my friends earlier today, and it's like taking the back of two magnets and trying to push them together to make them work. And that's the consistency of what our offense and defense have been in the last 3 to 4 years, where the offense was the driving force, but the defense was what held us back. And now it's a complete role reversal this year. And as infuriating as it is, I mean, it shouldn't be that complicated to just let your guy that's making all the best moves for your team and the guy that's the driving force of your team get some carries. So I still have no idea why Derrick Henry didn't get an opportunity to tote the rock. It wasn't like the Chiefs found a way to just held him down. We just quit giving him the ball. So, Ian, can you explain that one for me? I'm still having a hard time trying to understand that.
Yeah, I have two sort of theories with that. Both are pretty concerning, I will say. First is just that Todd Downing has no idea what he's doing, which is sort of what it feels like to me. And that would be the only explanation there, is just offensive ineptitude, which he does have a bit of a track record for. So I think there's some evidence for that. The second is a little bit more concerning to me, and seeing that Henry only finished with 17 touches in that game, and the way that they really sort of started leaning on Malik at the end for, I mean, really seemingly no reason, with 4 minutes in overtime or late in the game in the fourth quarter as well. I am worried that Henry's foot may be bothering him. He was listed on the injury report early in the week with the foot being the reason that he did not practice. I think that was last Monday, and that may just be normal sort of procedure for them. I know some of those players got some rest following last week, and as Henry, he should be getting all the rest in the world of anybody on this team. But I would be very worried if we continue to see him sort of lay off throughout the season and only get 17, 15 touches a game.
And the crazy thing is, this defense is built to win games, but the offense has to pitch in. I'm not asking the offense to just carry the load. I'm just asking them to just inch a little closer and get some points. I mean, literally, if Tennessee gets a field goal, we wouldn't be talking about this loss. We'd be talking about a win. As you said, if they start right when they started on the 50, on that punt right there, that was another situation. Couldn't capitalize on field position. Couldn't capitalize in the opportunity. And it's infuriating, especially seeing the defense play so well right now when we had so many questions after the Buffalo game. You know, can we be consistent? Can we get back to where we were? Is this team good enough to compete? And I think they are. Defensively, yes. Offensively, until they decide to just hand the keys over, to Tim Kelly, which I think I called him Tim Miller earlier, so my mistake. So not the actor, but the head coach. I have to think that this is going to be a season where we could potentially just end up having a very low draft pick. if we don't make a decision or we don't make a move soon. And I'm not advocating for anyone being fired. That's not what I'm about. But I am going to be realistic and say, if you're not doing the job I hired you for, it's kind of hard to defend you.
I completely agree. I completely agree, and I think that is ultimately what it comes down to. And I think Mike Vrabel gets it. And shoot, if they have to script the plays for the second half too, I'm fine with that as well. If we can do anything, and it just feels like what hurts the most for me is not that it is a problem, because I think it's more than a problem now. The danger is now that it's our identity, and I think that is a real dangerous place to be right now.
And I agree. I mean, it's not the kind of identity you want to identify with, when you're building your brand and when your culture is strong. And I'll give the team credit. I would give the team so much credit that they're standing behind each other, that they're rallying around each other, and that's what you want to see. But the thing is, how long will that last? Especially when one side's not pulling their weight. That changes quickly. So realistically, I look at the situation from the negative side. You know, offensively, we're just lost. Todd Downing is a black hole of talent, and that's all I can really say.
It does seem that way.
But as I said, we do have some positives we have to look at. And I mean, Malik Willis didn't play a great game, but he played a good enough game in my mind. Another situation, he had to come out against a slightly better team defensively than what Houston is. And Kansas City's defense isn't that great. They're 26 overall in the league. Their pass defense was one of the worst pass defenses that we've faced so far. But unfortunately, with a lack of receivers going out and making big plays, it makes things a little difficult. But realistically, from Malik's standpoint, do you feel encouraged going forward knowing that he's progressing slightly? Or do you feel that you need to see more?
Yeah, I think you have to see more. But I feel very encouraged about Malik. I actually felt much less positive after the Houston game, despite the fact that that was a game where we ended up getting the win. And no doubt our offense played much better, but it felt like they were playing better in spite of Malik. In this case, it felt like Malik was playing really kind of well. If and we're having a completely different discussion if Chris Connolly and Nick Westbrook-Akina make those two catches, which they really ought to have. And it's a tough situation, but he put a lot of balls on the money. It looked like he was a lot more confident in the pocket. And you have to like where you're at, but for anybody, I know there are some people who are on. There's two sides of the coin here. It's either Malik is no good, cut him, we don't need him, trade him, whatever, or there is the side that's saying we don't need Tannehill. Malik is the next guy. I think we're somewhere more in the middle here. I think Malik still needs more time. I think he could use it would be to his benefit, perhaps the team's benefit, if he were able to sit even one more year. But we'll just have to see where he's at next offseason. But for this year, it's no question. We need Tannehill back to make this offense back into what it is designed to be. And in fairness to Malik, in every sense, he is being asked to do a lot in this game specifically for the weapons that he's provided. He has no wide receivers to speak of. He really only has Derrick Henry to rely on, and Derrick Henry has never really been all that much of a pass catcher himself. And so for Malik to go out there and do what he did last night, I think you have to give him a lot of credit. And you could tell not only he, but the rest of the team was very frustrated after that game and after not coming out with a win there. I think they were really that was a really crushing blow not to come out with a win there. And I think the offense knows that it's sort of on their shoulders.
So, taking a quick look ahead next week, Tennessee gets a home game. The Denver Broncos come to town. The Broncos seem to be in a semi rebuild mode, but it's not official yet. Russell Wilson played a good game last week over the pond. So I'd have to think their offense is starting to click a little bit, but not to the point where I feel confident enough about them long term. So what's Tennessee going to have to do next week to prepare against the Broncos?
They're gonna need to have Ryan Tannehill back, which I think that they will. If he was getting ready to come out for this game, I don't think it was all just mind games that Mike Vrabel was trying to play. I think they did hope. I don't know how high their hopes were, but I think that they did hope that Ryan Tannehill could maybe go. And if they were testing him out like that, I think there's no doubt he'll be back next week. So I think you have to salute and applaud Malik, but I think he himself is probably ready to get back into his practice squad role for a little bit and take a break. Going forward, the offense has to figure something out, get some semblance of consistency, of rhythm in these games going forward, and I don't know what they need to do to improve the second half offense, but that's really what it comes down to. Their first half offense has actually been very, very good on these scripted plays or whatever you want to call it. You just have to figure it. You can clearly do it. You clearly can have success in this offense. You just have to find a way to do it in the second half of games. I mean, it's at what point you just have to go, guys, go out there and play the way you did in the first half. Avoid the penalties. Just stick it to them. Believe in yourselves. We'll run it 3 times if we have to. I think they're very lucky not to be playing Bradley Chubb as well. That's a very fortunate trade deadline sort of situation. I think they've got a lot of hope going forward.
What's one thing you would like to see the Titans work on this upcoming week that you think will be the X factor in this game?
Yeah, not only in this game, but in this season, I think going forward, you have to get the deep ball going. You have to have some big plays in the passing game. I mean, I think for a lot of the struggles we've had in the second half, it's because we've been very conservative with our play calling. And whether it's one thing leads to another or not, I think you have to try some deep balls. They have not thrown nearly enough. I partially think that's because of Racey McMath going down in the preseason. I think he was actually going to be a big part of the offense. I think he was going to be their deep ball threat. And his injury has just totally, completely derailed that idea. And now they sort of were in a situation where the play action pass game is just completely defunct because they don't have that deep ball option. So I would love to see them try it out. Obviously, Nick Westbrook, NWI, had that one deep ball catch in the Washington Commanders game. I at least threaten it, at least toss a couple that way, whether it's Robert Woods or NWI. Maybe we'll get Traylon Burks back soon, but I think the deep ball is what I'm hoping to see. And I know they can do it, and I think that could be a real weapon to open up this offense.
And I agree. And I'll also add this. I think yesterday was really infuriating also. So many things that infuriated me. I was a very angry person yesterday.
Me too.
But the fact that they got away from their tight end sets was extremely infuriating, especially getting an early start out on there. And granted, I know Malik was trying to get more comfortable in the pocket and move around, and they were throwing pressure at him. But at the same time, it's just basic drop-off stuff when you're trying to hit your tight end in stride. So I feel they got away from that, and that's really what just stalled this offense out, especially in the second half. I want to see more of that. I want to see the tight ends get more involved. I mean, what's the point of spending all that money on Hooper for 1 year if we're just paying him to block? I mean, I can put Jeff Swaim out there and get the same results. I brought Hooper in here because I want to see somebody catch the damn ball.
Absolutely, and we can see what Chigakonkwo can do as well. He's a
Agreed.
weapon. He's a weapon. I can't believe how underutilized some of the weapons of this offense are. I mean, one way or the other. Austin Hooper, I feel like, should be out there far more. I think he should be getting the ball thrown to him quite a bit more. He's shown that he's got very sure hands. He hasn't really, to my knowledge, dropped many balls this season. So let's let him go out there and make a play. He's a former Pro Bowler. He's the kind of guy you can toss the ball up to and say, "Hey, go and get this for your quarterback." And same with Chigakonkwo. He's quick. I wish he'd gotten about 5 yards further down the field on that first catch he had. I think I would have kept us in field goal range, but um, I would love to see those tight ends utilized a bit more. I completely agree with you.
And a great point you made there. I mean, just Tennessee has a lot of underused weapons that they're not getting involved in the game. And that just goes back to square one. Todd Downing's basically like a McDonald's manager running a 5-star restaurant. You think it'll work. It don't work. We serve steaks here, sir. We don't serve Big Macs. But realistically, everyone, I mean, it's a heartbreaking game because of the effort put in. And the defense has shown that they can win games if the team can play on all three faces of the ball and support each other in that. And unfortunately, we've yet to see a game like that. The defense has had to come and basically play cleanup most of the season. And unfortunately, this is the one that got us in the end. I consistently think that Tennessee can still win their division. I still think they can get into the playoffs. But at some point, this offense has to show up. And that's the scary part. We're halfway through the season, and this offense has yet to show any consistency of being a force that can help this team utilize what's in front of them. And realistically, this game was almost a mirror of what the Giants game was. Switch roles with Saquon Barkley and Patrick Mahomes. So to finish this out, Ian, I'll let you have the final thought of what the Titans are going to have to do for the second half of the season, and we'll close this show out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really a simple question, I think. I mean, I think when we look back at this Kansas City game, I think we can take a couple things out of it, especially as it relates to our season. For the defense, we've got an elite defense. We've got a Super Bowl caliber defense. We know what the Kansas City Chiefs offense is. We've seen the Titans put it together against other teams, really shut out Indianapolis a couple times, but we knew the Indianapolis offense was really no good to begin with. We know Kansas City's offense is elite. Has one of the best players in the world, really in two positions actually, with quarterback and tight end, and they did very, very well with both of them generally. They let up at the end a little bit, letting Patrick Mahomes get that 17 yards on that scramble. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a backbreaker, I feel like. But needless to say, I think that when you're asking your defense to do so much for you, it just is not a formula for success. You have to make the second half offense work. I've harped on it all segment here. But I think you need consistency in the offense. With you need people out there. Availability is the most important aspect that you can ask for. Having people healthy, and obviously you can't just will people to do that, but it is an important factor. Hopefully, getting Kyle Phillips back. Hopefully, getting Traylon Burks back. Maybe at some point we get Racey McMath back. I don't know. I've been hoping for that all season, but having those three guys in the offense. Hey, at least we get three more options in the wide receiver who aren't Cody Hollister. And so I think from there, we can see what the offense actually is at the end of the day. But I think for the rest of the regular season, it's really going to be the defense's show. And maybe Derrick Henry can continue to will that offense to some form of success. My final word is just let the defense cook. Let the defense cook.
I'm more than happy to let the defense cook, but Russell Wilson coming into town next week, I'm not really feeling his cooking.
Oh man.
So consistency going forward. We're going to hit the halfway point of the season starting next week. Tennessee is going to have to decide what they want to be going forward. And it's either going to be a team that can be balanced on all three phases of the ball, or it's going to be perfectly imbalanced where defense continues to bail out an offense that is just MIA most of the time. Granted, injuries once again play a factor into it, but at the same time, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's a team that's finding inspiration in one another. They find success in one another, and they play for one another. And as cornball as it sounds, that's the truth. When you believe in each other in the locker room, that's just a hard bond to break. So consistency, I hope it's something we can see a little more of in the next half of the season. It's not going to get any easier. We still have 4 games to play in this gauntlet we have left, but I've said I feel if we win 3 of those, I think Tennessee's still in good shape. So unfortunately, one gets away. So the next 4 have to be of critical importance, and that will start with Denver this upcoming Sunday. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Power Hour. Want to thank Ian Schiller for joining us again from Titan Sized. Fantastic job, fantastic takes, man. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining the show. Want to give you one more chance to give a shout out to the fans and let them know where to find all your content at.
Hey, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the Power Hour. Anytime you guys want to find our stuff, go to check out Titan Sized on part of Fansided, and you can always find my stuff on my Twitter. Ian RFC7 is my Twitter handle. Ian RFC7, IAN RFC7. And that's where I put all of my content, and I'll always have I'll try to get some fantastic takes out there for you on Twitter. Might just be gifts for you, but I think you'll enjoy it either way. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Michael.
As always, thank you, Ian. Definitely looking forward to your new stories coming out. I'll get one of mine out eventually. I try and just stretch myself out. This is my baby, but I definitely put in work at Titan Size as well. So shout out to all our great contributors out there doing great work. And of course, one of them putting out the best stuff you can read out there on the web if you're looking for good Titans information and stories. And once again, everybody, thank you for joining us on the show tonight. And don't forget, if you love the show, help it grow, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at the Power Hour 615. We're continuing to grow because of your support, and the Titan Upload Network thanks you very much. And don't forget tonight, the Rossi Report will be on at 9 p.m. Central. So they've got a slew of guests coming in. Unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to make that one. Got a lot going on my end. So make sure you check out the Rossi Report tonight on YouTube at 9 p.m. Central. So, guys, thank you once again for your support. Thank you for watching the show. And for Ian, I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Take care and tighten up. Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.